Okay. I think when I make that many things to write, as like the course script, I'd like to say extra time. I
Need more time.
I need more time.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lot to write.
No, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna go off of the more time. Like I feel like I didn't answer questions, but I read them and I knew them, but I didn't have time to write them down. A lot of them required big answers, like how to say things, and there's a lot to write in this question.
Yes. That's good feedback. We had a lot of fill-ins today. Yeah. Did review and the handouts and things we provided help?
Yes.
Okay, good. We'll keep doing that. It's not like an excuse not to look at the full big picture, but it helps hone in on what's most important. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So I hope that was helpful. Today we have a guest speaker. We're going to talk about public speaking, since the majority of all of your work as an ambassador is public speaking. And then we are going to delve back into some fun role playing and being in here and doing our thing and strategizing what the best answer is when you're out there and get the questions. And then you're going to spend some time in your TI groups as well. Just talking about the tour script, any challenges you're having with the tour script, and we'll go from there. So I'll save the assessment announcement until the weekend until after. That's not good. Javier, will you come up too and help? So we are very excited to have with us Michelle Antoine from Residential Education, and she's going to be leading us in a discussion about public speaking, which is so important for everything that we do, right? And just to give you some tips and tricks, and I know she wants it to be participatory as well, and you guys are great at that, so let's welcome Michelle.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? Good. Hopefully you got the, I'm glad I came after the test so that there wasn't anxiety during this. So, I can tell you, my name is Michelle. My name is Michelle Antoine. I currently work in residential education, which she mentioned. And just a little bit about myself before I kind of delve into the presentation so you understand a little bit about who I am and why I'm here to present. I see some familiar faces, which is exciting. Hello. A little bit about myself. So I am originally from Montreal, Quebec. I moved to Miami, Florida when I was fairly young, and then I went to school there for a really long time. I went to my undergrad at Florida Atlantic University, where I pursued dual degrees, one in intercultural communication and one in international business. Then I moved to Florida Atlantic University, where I pursued a master's degree in higher education administration. And then I moved way across the country after finding a job here at State, all by myself, packed all my bags. I wanted a new experience, worked as a residence hall coordinator on campus for 3 years. And then I just recently started my role as the academic coordinator of the Department in Residential Education. I decided after my first year of working as an RHC that I didn't have enough to do, so I decided to pursue a second master's in communication, which is a little bit about how I'm giving you all of that. You're like, why is she telling us all this? I'm giving you kind of that backstory so you understand, I guess, some of my background, where I'm coming from, and some of the information I'm going to share with you. I do hope this is more of a conversation than me speaking at you most of the time, so I will probably have you kind of discuss a little group at some points, obviously share back with me so that we can kind of have a dialogue about what some of these things mean. And know that I'm not an expert in public speaking. I don't think there's any experts of anything, really. It's kind of ongoing. You learn a lot about how to as you do it. But I do hope that I have some tips to give, and obviously we'll take questions later if there are particular things that you want to know that I didn't mention. Sounds good?
Yes.
Perfect. sharing the importance of planning in public speaking, the challenges of public speaking. I think it's a pretty big fear of a lot of people, so we're going to talk about some of those things and unpack that. The importance of the self, and recognizing the importance of you in this. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of scripted material, from my understanding, that you'll be getting, and kind of what to say, how to say, etc. But obviously, you were each chosen to be ambassadors, not to be robots, but to kind of put yourself into these situations, be able to articulate yourself well, and put a little bit of yourself into those tours, presentation, etc. that you're giving to parents, students, etc. So we'll talk about that, and then identify and apply strategies for effective and comfortable public speaking. So building block 1. Oh yeah, and I guess I didn't mention that. So they're kind of in the form of building blocks. I did actually print out just like a little bit of a cheat sheet for you. All of this is kind of individualized in terms of how to make yourself the most comfortable with public speaking. So I hope that as we go through the presentation, you can take some notes down about what will work for you. Obviously some thoughts as I ask some of these reflective questions about some things that make you anxious and how you can overcome those things. And please pass these around. There probably are more extras in the front. So building block, yep.
Never mind.
So building block 1 is reflect. So again, setting clear presentation learning outcomes. Obviously I just did that. And obviously again, at the end of the day, you're not always going to have a PowerPoint or something for people to refer to as in terms of a visual aid. But it is important for you to set kind of clear goals and what you want people to walk away with when you're either touring them, walking backwards. I see that happening a lot with the tours. Or just, again, having a conversation and what you want, what the message is, what the takeaway is for some of these students and parents. Ask yourself these 3 questions, and I really want you to ask them and potentially reflect. Why did you decide to become an SDSU ambassador? Think about that for a moment. Again, I'm not sure, it's probably throughout your training that this question potentially comes up. But I want you to reflect on it in the context, obviously, of public speaking, and maybe you wanted to do this because you wanted to overcome some of that fear. Maybe it was really just to get involved, and you didn't know that you had to public speak, and then you were like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But yeah, think about that. What is the takeaway I hope to provide to my audience, and how will I share my Aztec experience? So again, if you want to jot down some notes, you can, but just reflect on that for a few minutes. So the why. Anyone want to share some whys?
I decided to become an SDSU ambassador, to apply to be an SDSU ambassador because I had such positive experiences with my tour guides and my orientation leaders that I wanted to inspire other students in the same way they inspired me.
Awesome. Sorry, your inspiration.
I just really loved SDSU, like the second I stepped foot on this campus, and I just knew it was like the school for me. And so like I wanted to be an ambassador because I really wanted other people to feel that when they came to the school for the first time.
I want to represent the diversity on campus.
That's important. It's supposed to be one of our most important kind of pillars, right? Yes.
I want students to not feel so scared anymore when they are coming to college, because I know a lot of people like struggle with that transition, so then they can feel like more comfortable already.
Perfect. I hope you're already starting to hear, obviously with some of the inspiration pieces, the wanting to be the impact, the diversity, the transition, how all of that is really important to incorporate into your public speaking. It sounds like obviously a lot of the interactions you had when you first came, you want to be able to share as well, and some of that does have to do with how you present yourself and the information that you're giving and the energy that you bring to those conversations. So thank you all for sharing. So what is the takeaway? What do you hope to provide? Again, some of this might overlap, but what do you hope parents, students, et cetera, will walk away from their interactions this week? What do you hope that they get?
I said that they just take away, like, not like even a sense of love for the university, but a sense of understanding. Like, when I came to tour, a lot of people, my tour guide said that, like, you might feel that it's the right fit for you, but you also might not, and it's okay to experience that. So I want to, like, let my audience know that it's okay if they don't love it, but it's also a great thing if they do.
Anyone else?
I want people to realize just like how amazing SSU is, like not think of it as like, because every time they're like, oh, where do you go to school? SSU, oh, it's a party school. No, it's so much more than that, and just like want people to realize that, like, don't associate it with that.
And then how do you plan on sharing some of that? Again, that's a really broad question, but if there's anyone who wrote down a specific kind of way that they want to share, yes.
Well, just like in the tour, like just like interacting with the people in the tour and stuff, you can just put in like your own personal experiences and just it'll make them feel a little more comfortable with you and realize like, oh, this is one person's experience, and then they'll see how great it is.
Yeah.
I think just showing like how passionate you are like through your tour and through like helping the students out. I think that's like a big deal.
Definitely important. Thank you all for sharing. So obviously the why is important, right? So setting your intention every single time you're walking into a room and have to speak with a group of people, lead a tour where you have to both remember not to hit someone walking behind you, or figure out like remember the layout of things so that you know that you won't stumble on your words because you're trying to think of this other thing that's really important in terms of your bodily safety. Those things are important, right? So setting your intention before you even walk into those spaces, before you have your shifts, etc., is very important for you, so that you know what kind of energy you want to bring. A lot of you talked about the impact and the inspiration. That's important to be able to think about before you go into these spaces, because obviously you're going to have other things going on in your life, but if this is the initial impact that you are, or the initial interaction that a lot of these guests will have with the SDSU representation, it's important that that impact is a good one. Obviously the takeaway, so how should they feel when they walk away from these interactions with you? And what should they know? So a lot of you talked about the knowledge, and the transition pieces, the sharing of experiences. So all of those things, again, you need to be able to prepare, right? To prepare and reflect on what is the message you want to give and how you plan on giving that message in terms of your aesthetic experience. Obviously, you have to balance that. We'll talk more about that later. Obviously, you have to balance that with the negative experiences and what you should and should not share, because we don't want that to be kind of the one thing that stands out in parents or guests' minds. But the script is there, right? But how do you put yourself into the presentation, and the representation of San Diego State is really important to think about as you prepare for giving these tours and these presentations. Any questions so far? Pretty straightforward. Okay, so owning the fear.
I saw a thing, actually, a study that said speaking in front of a crowd is considered the #1 fear of the average person. I found that amazing. Number 2 was death. Death was number 2? This means to the average person, if you have to be at a funeral, you would rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy.
So pretty straightforward. But obviously people are afraid of public speaking. Why is that? If you can talk just, I guess, in your maybe groups of 3s, the people next to you, just come up with like one fear that you all share about public speaking. Just take a few minutes.